Hey everybody, today's guest is Angie Hawkins, inner glow coach, speaker, and author of Running in Slippers, a memoir that doesn't just tell her story, it unmasks it. Angie's journey includes a moment 5 years ago that cracked her wide open, a suicide attempt that led to radical self love, truth telling, and a complete rejection of external approval. She now helps women stop people pleasing, set boundaries without guilt, and reclaim their inner light through her coaching program, Shine from the Inside. And she does it with a kind of honesty that's rare and deeply needed. This conversation is about choosing authenticity over performance. It's about what happens when you stop living for the algorithm and start living for yourself. All right, everyone, we are live with Stream of Consciousness with Dan. Today, I'm sitting down with Angie Hawkins, a coach, speaker, and author whose story is rooted in honesty, transformation, and learning to live from the inside out. This is a conversation about authenticity, boundaries, and what happens when you stop performing for approval and start choosing yourself. How are you doing today, Angie?
I'm good. How are you, Dan? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being here. I'm doing really well. I'm trying to channel my inner Hawaii right now. And I
I think
love
you're
your,
doing a good job.
is that wallpaper or is that a paint
It
or what is that
it's
beautiful?
wall it's decals. This was a COVID project because we all had some extra time on our
Oh
hands, and
yeah.
I did this, but it ended off paying off really well because this is where I sit for all my calls, so everyone comments on it. So I'm like, yes, that was a win from COVID.
Well, at least COVID did something good, right?
Yeah.
I learned to trumpet over COVID. That was my COVID
Oh,
project.
cool. Do you still play?
Ah, I guess play is a okay word for it. I dabble. I dabble.
Oh,
Let's
I
just
like
say
that.
that. Oh, so let's get this going. So I always like to start off with a little bit of joy, just talking about your childhood, what, made you happy. Like for me, I was a huge racing fan. I just loved watching the cars go around the track. I had all the little NASCAR cars. I had a little rug on the floor with a track, and I just sit there for hours and just race around the track doing my own little races. So kind of what brought you joy as a child?
I was a very imaginative child, so I loved reading and I loved writing. I used to write like actual books. And another thing I developed an early fascination with Hawaii because I also love to play with Barbies. And I had a Barbie, it was a Hawaii Barbie, and she had hair down to her butt, which I just found so fascinating because like most people don't have hair quite that
Uh-huh.
long, but like that was the thing in Hawaii. And I also had a Barbie Ferrari convertible and it was bright red. So also as a little girl, I developed a fascination. I always wanted a red convertible. So from a very young age, my dream was to live in Hawaii and have a red convertible. And I also loved like singing and dancing and just being like quirky and crazy.
Oh gosh. I can't even begin to talk about that. So that's hilarious because I would go to my grandparents' house and I'd be with my cousin. She's about 1 year younger than me, and I would fight with her over this pink Barbie car
Because you loved cars.
because I love cars. And I was like, I don't even care if it's a pink Barbie car.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to play with this pink Barbie car.
I
So,
love that.
oh my gosh, that is so cool. So, was there a particular author or what kind of books were you reading as a kid?
I love that you asked that question because I can think of a few well, actually, I can't even remember the author's name, but I loved Nancy Drew. I can't
Hmm.
even remember who the author was, but I love like mysteries and like trying to solve the mystery before the book ended. There was also this other author, her name, I don't think she was really popular, but her name, and I don't even know if she's still alive, is Willow Davis Roberts. Like one of the books that she wrote was The Girl with the Silver Eyes, and it was about these parents before they had kids. They worked at this factory, and there was some kind of chemical in the factory that contaminated them. And when they had kids, all the kids had magic powers. They had silver eyes and they could move things with their eyes. So it was like, I guess, kind
Interesting.
of like children's sci-fi, or I don't even know what genre that would be.
Oh, that's cool. Because
Yeah, but I liked her.
I was just a huge Harry Potter nerd, so
Ooh, okay.
uh, I remember going to Walmart because obviously there was no Amazon or Kindle
Yeah.
or anything like that, but I would remember going to Walmart with my mom at midnight when the books would come out, and I would sit under the covers and literally read the entire book.
Oh, yeah, I could do that too, like stay up all night and read.
Yeah. Oh, so that's really cool. Yeah, well, we're hitting it off. Let's keep this going.
I
Um, so yeah, so you talked about you liked reading, you were a big singer and dancer. You sounded very, very jovial. So let's kind of get into kind of more of your adolescent years, like kind of what high school was life. And I know you went through a very difficult period when your father passed,
Mhm.
but so yeah, just kind of talk about more of your adolescent years and kind of just growing growing up into a woman, I guess, if that's a fair question.
No, that is a fair question, and I think that leads up to the year my dad passed away. So, in my household, because my parents didn't get divorced until I went to college, but they were never really happily married. And I think it's fair to say that they were both extremely emotionally unavailable. And as an adult, I can understand what that means and understand why
Hmm.
they were the way they were. But as a child, you don't have those resources. And especially like as we were just talking, and like even you describing like watching the cars like go around the track, there's just such an innocence in that, right? Because you're just
Hmm.
so naive and innocent. And so as being in that innocence as a little girl, the way I interpreted the situation is I truly didn't think I deserved to be loved. So at a very young age, I developed this belief that I didn't deserve to be loved. And for me, that heavily manifested through people pleasing and perfectionism because I was always looking for things outside of myself to prove my worth. And it was interesting because you specifically mentioned like school and high school, and that was my thing. Like I had to be a straight A student because like to me, like if I didn't get a straight A, then like I had no identity because I was
Hmm.
always like putting my worth in that. And I actually even developed an eating disorder in high school because I was just kind of like so I don't even know what the word is. Like I had no identity and I really didn't have like this loving home in my with my parents. And so I started starving myself and I weighed like the summer before my senior year of high school, I weighed 85 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
And what happened was, like in my family, we swept everything under the rug. So even though it was like a huge elephant in the room, like we didn't talk about it, which was fine with
Hmm.
me because I didn't want to talk about it. But one day, my mom came to me and she was like, I booked you an appointment with a therapist. And in my mind, I was like, oh, she finally cares and wants to help. But the reason she had booked the appointment was because some of my friends' parents had mentioned to her my weight, and it was embarrassing for her. And
Oh,
so
so
that was like,
so it wasn't out of love, it was out of almost embarrassment.
yeah. So even as a teenager, that was like a knife in my heart because it's
Hmm.
like, oh, it's not about her caring. And then so she was so adamant that I went to these appointments. So my senior year of high school, I had my own car and I drove myself back and forth to school, but she was so adamant that I went to these appointments, she would take off work, pick me up from school, and take me to them. Um, and so I started going to these therapy appointments, and it very quickly came out with the situation with my parents. And also, my dad was an alcoholic. And like, so there's way more to the dynamic. But, I'm
Hmm.
like telling my therapist about this. So, one of the appointments, she pulled my mom into the room and like explained to her, like, oh, this is what's going on. And that day on the way home, as my mom was taking me back to school, she was like, oh, do you want to keep going to therapy? And I didn't, because I was like 17 and it was
Yeah.
awkward and weird. So I was like, nope. And she was like, okay. And I never went back. But then she was like, obviously the problem wasn't solved. And she knew I wanted to move away and go to college. So she was like, if you don't gain weight, you can't move out and go to college. So fear is an amazing motivator. So I just started like eating everything in sight. And I just honestly, all I remember about my senior year of high school, I was so miserable because I just like hated being in my own skin because I just felt so out of control. And I guess that's the best way to describe it, out of control and anxious. And my point is, because I didn't resolve any of these things, I carried them through most of my adulthood because I just always had those like people pleaser, perfectionist, and I always had my eating disorders never were that bad again, but I definitely had disordered eating. I was always like over exercising and under eating. But for
Hmm.
me, that was a way to numb my feelings because there are socially acceptable ways to numb your feelings and socially unacceptable ways. So some people do cocaine. Some people run marathons or like torture their body through
Yeah.
exercises. And it's true. And when you are doing it in a socially acceptable way, there's not like that backlash or anything. So I seemed very functional on the outside, but I was like an anxious mess for many, many decades.
Yeah. So that's a very powerful story, and I think what advice? I don't know. Are you a mother, or are you?
I'm
Uh,
not a mother.
you're not.
No.
But if you
Yeah.
were, like, what advice would you give to a mother with a person like you who's going through that? Because I can't put myself in your shoes and what you were feeling. Obviously, you were kind of forced into therapy, and therapy is a very difficult thing to do. It sounds like, oh my gosh, therapy is awesome. I just go to therapy and it's great, but it's intimidating.
Yeah.
And
Especially at that age.
yeah, and I'm personally, I have chronic depression, so I've, you know, been through therapy quite a few times, and
Yeah.
it sounds like, why don't you just go to therapy? It's so easy. But so I guess my question is, what advice would you give to kind of navigate your situation if you could, maybe just rewrite your story, I guess, not that you can.
Yeah. Um Well, number one, I think the most important thing to do is to hold, like, if you're talking about a mother daughter situation or any kind of parent situation, or any situation really, this hold space for the other person to feel the way they feel. Because I think a lot of times, like, so for example, if you go to someone and tell them you're depressed, I feel like people's knee jerk reaction is to like do something to get you out of that state. And that just like reinforces your own uncomfortableness with the situation because they're saying it's not okay for you to feel that way. So you need to get out of that state. But just allowing people to feel how they feel, whether you understand it or not, whether you agree with it or not, is such a powerful place to even start. And then you can talk about like what are solutions for this, because therapy never worked for me. That doesn't mean it doesn't work for other people, but there are like multiple ways these days to work through
Hmm.
whatever you're dealing with. But I think the very first step is just having that compassion and holding space for the other person. Because if you come in from that place of defensiveness or like you need to be fixed, like you're just not even starting off with a good foundation.
No, I completely agree, and I think that's what we're doing right now is just having a conversation and sharing space and talking.
Yeah,
And that's therapy in itself. It doesn't have
I
to
think
be.
so. Yeah.
So no, that's awesome. well, it's not awesome, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Uh, so yeah, so do you want to touch a little bit about when your father passed and kind of the next step in your journey?
Yeah, so my dad died in 2017. And again, I had been like numbing and suppressing my feelings my entire life. And also I went through a breakup right before my dad died. So I was in so much grief that it was impossible not to feel my feelings. But I had no idea what to even do with what I was feeling. And he died in February 2017. So all I remember, and the best way I can think to describe it is I felt like a numb zombie for the rest of the year because I was feeling all these feelings. I didn't know what to do with them, and I felt like I was just walking around in a haze the entire
Hmm.
time. But again, it was like super functional. So like most people who knew me, they probably knew like something was kind of wrong, but I was still like functioning. So it wasn't like bad enough that I couldn't live my life. But just internally, it just felt so gross and disgusting. And again, it was like that helpless feeling because I felt like I was a victim to life circumstances. And it was just like, well, this is just how it is. So I just kept like trudging through life. Like, that's how it is.
Hmm. Well, that's a great segue into what I want to talk about next.
Yeah.
So what did you do about it? Because obviously you've been doing incredible work and rebuilding yourself, rebuilding, your image. So kind of, w- was there a moment when you're like, all right, this isn't working. Like, obviously, I can't just sit here and be in that zombie state.
Yeah.
I need to do something about this. So, what kind of sparked that?
So believe it or not, this is the short version. Because it's like there's so much to this.
We can
But
have the long version if you want. I'm
okay,
completely
no,
fine
I'll
with
like
that.
keep it short because there's a lot to it. But the initial thing that happened in early 2018, it was probably like the New Year's resolution energy that got to me. But I finally decided I was sick of feeling that way. And I was like, I want to do things to make me happier. I want to do something to make my life better. And I remember, I'll give you like kind of the longer version. So, and I didn't know what that looked like because I had never really been happy before. So I'm like, I don't even know how to do this. So I went to, and this is when I was living in Chicago, I went to this motivational seminar. That's how it was labeled, but it was like so lame, which I won't get into the details of that. But in going to that, I found out about this other motivational seminar in Denver. And among other speakers, it had Gary Vee and Tony Robbins. Do you know who they are?
Oh, I know Tony Robbins.
Yeah. So I signed up for that and I met Tony Robbins in person and it was so amazing. And I decided that I was like, I want to move to Hawaii. And keep in mind, like I'm a very like confident and adventurous person now.
Mhm.
That was not me in early 2018. Because keep in mind, I am just coming off of being a numb zombie for almost an entire year, on
Yeah.
top of like the anxiety, people pleasing, and all of that. So I'm not like this courageous, adventurous person. So me just deciding, like, I want to move to Hawaii, this is like insanely huge, right? But it was just like in my head, I'm like, this is what I'm doing. And I moved to Hawaii and I at the time because this was 2018, it was before remote work was the trendy thing to do, but I was very fortunate. I asked my manager because I worked for a global company and I was working from home most of the time anyway. So I was like, if I move to Hawaii, can I keep my job? He was like, I don't care where you are as long as you get your work done. So I was like, boom. So I moved to Hawaii. But I quickly learned you cannot move away from your problems. So I was basically the exact same person, just in a sunnier climate. And so I was not happier. And as a matter of fact, not only did I still have the same problems that I had before, I developed a whole new roster of problems because so again, I kept my job, and right around the time that I moved, there was this huge management shakeup at work that threatened my role. So the first year that I lived here, I lived in constant fear of losing my job because again, this was a time like remote work was like not the trendy thing to do.
Hmm.
And like there aren't really a lot of local jobs in like what I did when I worked in corporate America. Also, when I moved here, I had a really hard time making friends, which was something that I had never experienced in Chicago. So I was like, I don't even know what to do with this. Not only that, it was just like so lonely and isolating being thousands of miles away from anyone that I did know. And the other main thing that happened right off the bat, because I was like, again, I was like so gung ho about this. So I wanted to prove how all in and committed I was to my decision. So I bought a brand new condo like immediately within a few months of moving here. And then a month after I closed on my condo, a shared building pipe backflowed into my bathroom sink and I wasn't home. So my entire condo flooded. So that would have been stressful
Ooh.
anyway, right?
Yeah.
But like with all this other stuff going on, and I already couldn't handle my feelings, I that was like the beginning of this slow unravel because again, this was 2018, so over the next 2 years, it was just like thing after thing after thing, like my grandma died, like there was always something, which I again, like any sane person who does have emotional regulation would get tired of that after a while, but especially me, like being anxious and not really knowing how to deal with this stuff, it was and like slowly unraveling my internal world. And
Hmm.
then COVID happened. So I don't think I have to explain how that exacerbated the situation.
Yeah.
But the straw that broke the camel's back was the end of a relationship during COVID. And, we all have these moments in life because when it rains, it pours, right? Like that 2 year period. Like, I think we all go through things like that. And we have these thoughts like, I can't take this anymore. When does it end? So I was definitely having those feelings. But just layered on top of all of that was the sheer feeling of hopelessness because if I looked backwards, it's like my life has always been unhappy and unfulfilling. I tried to do this thing to be happier. It didn't work out. And when I looked into the future, I truly did not see any hope for the future because I was like, it's always going to be like this. And this is just not a life that I'm interested in. So I intentionally overdosed on my anxiety medication. And I took the entire bottle. I spent a day and a half unconscious in my bathroom. I spent another day and a half in the hospital. And when I was released from the hospital, I called a friend and I told her everything that happened. And I remember I ended with, I can't believe I didn't die. And her response was, it's not your time. And that was so profound. And I remember it sent a cold chill through my body because like in that moment because I actually felt worse than I did before I took the
Hmm.
pills, and then I also had all these physical symptoms from the withdrawal from the pill, so I wasn't like thinking
Right.
straight. But when she said that, it like sobered me up for a minute, and I was like, I think I have a purpose. I don't know what it is, but in that moment I was determined to figure it out. And I flipped immediately from that victim mindset, like life is happening to me. This is just how it is. I can't do anything about it, to, okay, like these things have happened to me, but I'm accountable for my own life. And I've been living life a certain way. And now I want to live life a different way. So it was in that moment, it was like that mindset shift of like, things are going to be different now.
Yeah, that I think is just a very heartfelt, sad but happy story at the same time
Yeah.
because I went through the same thing. You feel so at that point in your life, and when you do, what you did and what I did, like I said, you feel very almost cowardly, I guess. I don't want to demean it, but you do feel a little
Yeah.
cowardly, and I just love that you took that and were like, yes, I do have a purpose. I do matter. I have self-worth. I'm a, you know exactly what I'm talking about because
Oh, yeah. Because and it's hard to describe someone what that feeling of hopelessness is like because it's so dangerous because it's just like you feel like you're in this black hole and you
Mhm.
just like if everything ended, you would be like, okay, that's actually ideal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that'll be super powerful for people to hear. And I was wondering, I think this would be a good point. Do you have your book by chance?
Do I have it with me?
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
I'm
I
sure you
yeah, I
do.
have a whole bunch of copies. Do you wanna see it? Is that why you asked?
No, I just wanted you to. So I usually do like an ad read, but I would love for you to just
Oh,
read a little excerpt from your book if you don't mind, because
I
I
don't
really
mind.
want you to.
I have it on my laptop, so I don't actually, like, need a physical book, although I have
Yeah,
a
so
stack
if
in
you
my
want
bedroom.
just a quick yeah, just a quick
Yes.
excerpt, because I think that would be awesome because I want people to buy it, and
Um,
I would love to read it because I've not yet, but I would love to read it.
well, since we just talked about it, I would love to read about, like, the moment I took the pills. I normally, like, don't go that bold, but, like, to me, that's a really powerful moment. Like, is that
Yeah, do it.
okay? Okay.
No,
Let
absolutely.
me pull it up. Oh, this is exciting.
It I've gotten to the point where I'm like, why am I doing an ad read when I have these amazing guests on that can do them themselves?
And also, just so you know, because when you write a book, oh, where am I? You read it a gazillion times, but this is a part that I always start to cry. Where's my scroll thing?
All right, everyone, we've got a special treat. Angie will be reading a passage from her book, Running in Slippers. Angie, take it over.
Thank you, Dan. And before I read, I want to explain because a lot of people ask me about the title, and I feel like I always forget to talk about it. So before I forget, I live in Hawaii and we call flip flop slippers. So it really means running in flip flops. And also, like, the real reason why I came up with the title is in the introduction of the book. So I won't give that away. But running in slippers, it's a metaphor for life because running in flip flops and life could be adventurous, playful, and fun. It can also be dangerous, painful, and scary. So that is the essence of running in slippers.
That makes so much sense. That's really cool because I'm imagining myself running in flip-flops and I can just picture myself falling down the sidewalk.
Yeah, but it can also be fun, right?
It can be fun. I'm pretty clumsy though.
I am too. And I actually ran in slippers to do some, like, promotional things for my book and I didn't fall. So it's proof that clumsy people can do it.
All right, we'll take it over.
Okay. I survived a week, but I am barely hanging on. In the past 6 months, Ozzy and I have never gone this long without contact. With each day, the emotional pain gets more intense. After a Friday morning workout, my friend Sam starts unloading her trauma about her boyfriend. He's a piece of shit she has been on and off with for 8 years. He's a total psychopath who has broken into her apartment, trashed the place, keyed her car, and sabotaged her friendships. I told her over a year ago to kick his ass to the curb, but just like my toxic relationship with Mark, she has a trauma bond and thinks that a part of her is missing when they're not together. I'm already in an emotionally delicate place, and here is Sam unloading on me about her toxic boyfriend. She's upset because earlier that morning he was crying to her, or she was crying to her roommate Terry, and apparently Terry said, "Fuck him, I wish he would die." Sam starts crying. I don't want him to die. I feel like I'm talking to my 37-year-old self about Mark. Between my raw pain from Ozzy and total compassion and empathy for Sam, I start crying too. It's because it hurts us to see you hurting. We both have a good cry and hug. Sam thinks I'm such a strong person and has no idea how bad I want to die right now. I log off work around noon. Kelly had been thinking about surfing with me this afternoon, but she texted back that she can't go surfing, but could walk with me to the water so we can chat and catch up. I've been trying to be strong in front of Kelly, but I can't hide my pain when I meet up with her. I start crying. I can't believe he did this to me. He was my best friend. Kelly hugs me, and it's loving and supportive, but it's not enough. I want to escape this pain. I get in the water. The ocean is always so comforting, but not now when my heart is so raw that I can't stand it. All of me is hoping that Ozzy will do the thing that he always does, at least used to do, where he shows up unannounced where he knows I'm going to be. He doesn't. He used to hate it when I was mad at him. Now I am dead to him. I would rather him say, I hate you to my face than give me the silent treatment. The silent treatment kills my soul and uncovers my mark trauma like a swamp monster emerging from the sludge of the deep, murky waters. I'm not important. I don't deserve to be acknowledged. I don't even deserve to be loved. I can't do this again. I have been through too much hell since February 2017 without a break. After I get home from surfing, I grab the bottle of clonazepam. There are two left in this bottle. It's 4:30 p.m. and it's Friday, so I have tomorrow off work and can sleep in. Maybe if I sleep for over 12 hours, this emotional pain will go away. I take both pills. I am convinced that this will knock me out until tomorrow morning. I wake up at 11:30 p.m. and promptly run to the bathroom to throw up. The emotional pain rages in my chest like a vice gripping my heart. The physical and mental anguish is too much. In the past 3.5 years, I've had to deal with Mark leaving me for Julia, dad dying, moving from Chicago to Hawaii on my own, the flood, buying a new wood floor, health issues with my tongue, the difficulty of walking away from important friendships, having trouble making new friends, grandma dying, the struggles with Mike and the book project, the constant stress at work and fear of getting let go through the management changes, the horrible Guam and Denver trips, the restrictions and isolation of COVID, and now Ozzy abandoning me. Ozzy was the only true love and connection I have felt during this entire time, and the only person in my entire life who I felt 100% unconditionally accepted and emotionally safe. And it was ripped away from me with a swiftness and ease of turning off a light switch. I grabbed the brand new I grabbed the brand new bottle of 30 pills that I refilled last week. The warning on the side says, do not mix with alcohol, so I take 2 shots of tequila to ensure that it is. I put my pillow and blanket in the shower. I split the bottle of pills into two piles on the bathroom counter because all 30 seems like too much to swallow at once. I have a brief moment where I hesitate out of fear, but I know the pills will knock me out before I die. There is no hope for the future. This is the only way out. I swallow pile one, followed by pile two, and wash them down with a final swig of water from my red water bottle. I lay down in the shower. I'm hoping to lose consciousness immediately, but it feels like forever. It's probably only a few minutes, but when you're expecting to die and scared that something painful could happen before you lose consciousness, a few minutes feels like an eternity. There was no pain or discomfort. Just like you don't remember the moment before falling asleep, I don't remember blacking out. I'm like
Oh my
shaking.
God. No,
It's
um
hard to
I'm
read.
I'm having a hard time keeping myself together after that. I cannot appreciate you doing that, being that vulnerable and sharing that um with us. That's oh my goodness. I
Yeah.
just appreciate that so much, and just how well of a writer you are as well, just to, trying to get on the positive side. No, a very good writer. It's just so visual and just so real. It's not sugarcoating anything, well, obviously, but no, it was very well written, and like I said, I cannot thank you enough, and I can't wait now to get into the positive side of getting past that
Yeah.
and what you're doing now. But again, I cannot thank you enough for sharing that, because I know it's probably very difficult to, go back to that place.
Yeah. But no, thank you for the opportunity because the reason why it's even in the book or the reason why I even talk about it is because so many people go through similar things, but we aren't talking about it. Like when I was going through this, I just felt so alone and it didn't feel normal and I didn't feel like I had anyone to talk to about it. But the truth is, like, we all have these really low points in our lives. So, number one, you are not alone. And number two, there is hope for the future. Like, if I
Mhm.
can pull myself out of that, like anyone can.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So everyone out there listening who is feeling, like Angie did or like I did, there are resources out there. There are people, obviously like Angie that you can reach out to. Feel like you're not alone because I mean, I was right there in your shoes, maybe not quite to that extent, but where you feel so alone and you're like, I can't do this. My self-worth is so low. The
Yeah.
world's against me, but there are people out there that feel the exact same way. So always, always know that there's hope out there and you are worth so much no matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you are working at McDonald's as a cashier or the CFO of Apple. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Everyone has self-worth. So no, that was amazing. I couldn't, like I said, I couldn't have said it better myself. So I'm so glad that you were willing to share that with us.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. So we're gonna go positive. So you went through that, you survived. Where does Angie go? I am good to go. I'm ready to, share my story. I'm ready to uplift people. I'm ready to shed my skin of, self-doubt, self-worth. S- just yeah, just kind of talk about the next step after that.
Yeah, so I don't think I had like that moment, but what happened after that conversation with my friend, because quite honestly, before she made that comment to me, I was at a crossroads because, like I said, I felt worse than I did before I took the pills. So if she wouldn't have said that to me, I do think there's a good chance I would have tried again. But when she said that and I made that mindset shift, and I was like, okay, I'm going to figure out what my purpose is. I'm going to live life differently. I was kind of at the same space where I was in early 2018 because it's like, I want to do this thing, but I have no idea how to do it. But by that point, I had done some traditional therapy, I had done some other healing modalities, but they obviously hadn't worked. So I invested in myself and I hired a coach. And that was the beginning of what I call my healing journey in earnest that got me to where I am now. And that coincided with the book because on my very first call with my coach, he was like, if you didn't have to worry about money and could do whatever you wanted to do, what would you do? And I had had the idea for my book because I was like telling him, I was like, I want to write this memoir that's super vulnerable and it talks about the shitty things that happen in life because I don't feel like we're talking about those things because you go on Instagram and it's like the filters and edits and everyone's curated life and even in real life we're all wearing these social masks and we're not talking about the shitty things. And then I was like, after I write the book, I can go on this book tour. And then it's like safe spaces for people to talk about shitty things. And he was like, and keep in mind, this is like a few weeks after getting released from the hospital. So my only
Hmm.
goal is to like make it through the day. So on this call, I'm like hanging on for dear life. So I can only imagine what I looked like to him. But I'm like telling him about this idea. And he was like, did you notice how lit up you just got about that? And I obviously did notice my state change because I was like totally depressed. And now I was like all
Yeah.
excited and talking about this book. And I still wasn't in a place where I had the courage to put myself out there, but because I was focused on like this idea that I had a purpose, even though I didn't know what it was, I was like, maybe this feeling of feeling good is part of my purpose. So in that moment, the book went from just this idea that someday I was going to do to like, I'm actually going to be serious and write it and publish it, no matter how scary or whatever.
Hmm.
So those two things coincided. So I wouldn't even say I was like fully healed and where I am now when I published the book, but it just felt like again like part of my purpose because I always had this pull that felt good about it. So I was like, maybe this is part of my purpose.
Well, I can see your face light up on the screen when you talk about it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So, I really want to give you the floor for any organizations or community groups for people that kind of have walked in your footsteps, contemplating suicide or attempting suicide or things like that. Because again, I just really want to open that up because as we've discussed, there's no shame in talking about it or asking for help. So I just wanted to open the floor for you to talk about
Ye
that.
yeah, and I don't know if I have any specific recommendations because, again, I fear, and I don't know this for sure, but if you call the suicide hotline, my guess is their goal of the conversation is trying to talk you out of how you're
Hmm.
feeling and what you're doing.
And not solving the
And
problem.
yeah, and I don't think that's the best approach. Again, this is just my opinion. And again, I've been where I've been. I had a really, and I didn't even go into this, it is in my book. I had a really bad experience in the hospital. I was in the emergency room first, and then they transferred me to the psych ward. And I was basically treated like a caged animal because, again, the goal was don't hurt yourself, don't feel the way you're feeling. And it made my experience so much worse. Like I think I still do to some extent, but I had PTSD from my stay in the psych ward for that reason. So you're actually making the problem worse. So my overall advice goes back to what I was saying earlier. If you have someone who is safe, because not everybody is, but someone who's safe to talk to, who can just hold space for you to feel the way you feel without trying to change it, without, because again, they don't have to agree with it. They don't have to understand it. They just have to sit there with you. And that may even take like, hey, I don't need advice. I don't need anything. I just need you. Like, it makes me want to cry. Like, I just wanted a hug. You know what I mean? And
Right.
it's like,
You
that
want to
wasn't
be
even,
treated like a person. You want to be treated like a
yeah.
person.
It's like, I just want to be treated like a human being. So it's like, even if you have to tell someone, like, I just need a hug and some compassion, I would hope a fellow human being who loves you could hold that space for you. I again, I don't know that you're going to get it from the suicide hotline or like a mental institution or something. And that's just my opinion. And again, I'm kind of jaded from my own personal experience, but there are good human beings who are safe spaces. And I think someone who you already know and love is probably a better resource.
No, that's absolutely incredible advice, and I actually couldn't agree more because I'm going to get really personal, and please don't cry, because I'm going to.
I'm like already like on
Um,
that road.
um, but no, I don't even know if I've ever shared this with anyone before, so I'm going to just do it. When I was in college, I took what, like the stapler remover, you know what I'm talking about? Like
Oh,
those
yeah.
little,
Yeah.
and I was just cutting myself
Mm.
wherever I wanted, just cutting, cutting, cutting. And I literally was just sitting there covered in blood. And I was online and, messaging, God knows what, I don't even know what state of mind I was in.
Yeah.
And I went to the hospital because they thought I was obviously going to kill myself. And I completely resonate with what you were talking about. You're treated like a caged animal. There's like you just need to be fixed. You need to,
Yeah.
not think that way. And I'm just like, that's not really helping me. I just need
Yeah. Because, like, to
so.
me, it's like you were in so much pain, like emotional pain.
Mhm. And I don't even
Yeah.
know why.
And that's just it. So, like, it doesn't help to have someone be like, stop feeling that way. And you don't even
Yeah,
know where it's coming
it's like
from.
I don't even know where it's coming from. Like I was, and I don't want to make it about me, but like I was a successful student. I was, doing really well in school. I was, I had friends. I had everything going for me. But when you have a mental disorder, like sometimes like that stuff doesn't matter. It's just you can't get over it. So, like you were saying, just someone safe, a nice hug, which I again commend my parents 100% to ground me in that situation. So I don't know. I'm sorry. That was a very personal,
No,
a
I
very
no, I
personal
actually
story.
I think that was like very beautiful of you to share because that just reinforces the point of how things like this are dealt with. And I think that's why this isn't talked about because if someone is feeling suicidal and they speak up, it's like, don't do it, don't feel that way, blah, blah, blah. And it's not helpful. So why would they speak up?
Hmm. All right, so we're gonna go positive now. I don't want to get too much more negative, but so I really want to talk about where you see yourself in the next couple years, like what your vision is. Are you gonna write any more books, or kind of just what are you up to?
Yeah, that's a good question because I'm still trying to figure it out. But through my own healing journey, because I was putting my worth in everything outside of myself, I was also putting my identity in everything outside of myself. So a huge part of my healing journey was like discovering like who am I? What do I want? What do I like? And through discovering that, I discovered that I hated working in corporate America. It wasn't aligned with who I am at all. So
Hmm.
I quit my job and I started my coaching business, which is Inner Glow Coaching. So I help women go through the same transformation I did from chasing love and approval to radiating it from within. And I'm on this mission. I want to do it on more of a mass scale because right now I'm just doing one on one coaching. But I'm like, I want to speak and maybe do some like group things because I know that there are, and not even just women, I happen to work with women, but men deal with this stuff too. But there's so many people who are experiencing this and want help and need help. So I'm on a mission to help as many people as possible. And I did start writing another book. It's on the back burner at the moment, but I would like to write another book at some point.
Well, awesome. I like I said, I can't wait to read your first book, and I really hope you get that second one done because you have such a powerful message, and you're a great writer, you're a great speaker, and that's amazing what you're doing, for as as a life coach with your oh my gosh, it's just awesome. I cannot commend you enough because like I said, just your story and mine are so intertwined in a way.
Yeah.
So I guess before we sign off, after everything we've talked about today, you're sitting there right now in what, Honolulu, Hawaii.
Yeah.
There's paradise. What brings you joy right now, and what kind of just makes you get out of bed every day and be like, I am something, I can do something.
There's so many things. One thing, because I want to tie it back to what we were talking about at the very beginning, because when I was a little girl, I dreamed of living in Hawaii and driving a red convertible. And I live in Hawaii and I drive a red convertible. It is not a Ferrari, but I bought a red convertible in 2016, which is when I was living in Chicago. But I'm like, if I'm moving to Hawaii, I have to ship this car with me. So I did. So honestly, just sometimes even just thinking about that, like 6-year-old me would have been like so excited and happy to learn. Like it just makes me so proud to think that like I actually fulfilled that dream for myself, like
Mhm.
despite all the shit that I did go through. So that's number one. Another thing that brings me happiness is the fact that I did turn my life around because I used to live in this state of unhappiness and unfulfillment most of the time. And now I'm happy and fulfilled most of the time. And that's not to say I don't have challenges and I don't feel anger or sadness or any of those things. It just means I deal with life in a completely different way. And again, like there's a sense of pride about that because it's like I did that for myself. And
Mhm.
so, and again, like this just proves that like you can do anything. And I know it sounds so cliche, but it's like you can do anything you want to do, but you are accountable for making those changes in your life.
Mhm. Well, that's awesome. Well, I'm picturing you in the red convertible, and I'm picturing me stealing the pink Barbie car from my cousin. So no. So we're gonna sign off officially. Angie, I truly thank you so much for being here and sharing your story, being so vulnerable, being so honest, your heart and
Thank you for having me on.
compassion.
These are the conversations I love.
And I like again, your openness and the way you showed up. And for everyone watching, thank you for spending time with us today. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks again, everyone, for listening today on Stream of Consciousness with Dan. If this episode meant something to you, feel free to share it with someone who might need it, a friend, a family member, or a coworker. And if you want to support the show, leaving a rating or review helps more than you know. All of the links from today's conversation are in the show notes. And as always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I'll see you next time.